If you're an aspiring storage investor who wants to generate more income, more cash flow, and more freedom, then this video is the one you're going to want to bookmark. Maybe you want to build a legacy business for your family and something you can pass along to your kids. Maybe you just want fewer headaches that you're dealing with right now. Maybe you just feel like there's an easier way and your current business can be inconsistent. You feel like you're riding the income roller coaster. I have been there before. Ask me how I know. Or you're possibly stuck in a 9 to 5 that just doesn't light you up anymore, doesn't do it for you, and you're literally there just to get a paycheck. If you can relate, or if any of what I've shared with you resonates, I have been there before in one aspect of my life. My name is Alex Pardo, and either way, I want to assure you that you are in the right place, because today I'm going to be walking you through a simple 7-step storage wins roadmap. And this is the same exact system that I take my clients through to buy their first facility within 6 to 12 months. It's simple, it's actionable, it works even if you're new, even if you don't have a ton of time, maybe you don't have access to capital or you just don't have money. Either way, let's dive in and let's start with step 1. And step 1 is all about helping you get clear and specifically identifying your freedom number and getting clarity around your buy box blueprint, which is going to eliminate so much of the crap that you just don't need to be chasing and looking at. So this is part of our deal discovery system inside of Storage Wins, by the way. And before you ever look at a single storage deal, there's a couple things I really want to encourage you to get clarity on. Number 1 is your freedom number. Okay, what is the amount of monthly income that gives you options? Okay, that allows you to live life on your terms. And I think there's a couple different ways to look at the freedom number, right? For you, your freedom number might be, hey, it covers all of my needs. It covers all of our household expenses. And I'm not beholden to a 9 to 5, or consistently, if I could have X amount of dollars come in, that just gives me freedom and options. Maybe you're somebody who's super, super ambitious and you want to live a certain lifestyle. Maybe your freedom number is significantly higher because you want to live luxury, or you want to travel, you want to give more, whatever that number is for you. I encourage you to follow it, but get clear around what your freedom number is. Okay, what is that initial freedom number that just gives you more options? Is it $5,000 a month? Is it $10,000 a month? Is it $20,000 a month? Right? Whatever that number is, it dictates what kind of deals we're going to target and potentially how fast we can get there. So get clear on your freedom number, write it down, see it, believe it, because you need to be able to see it and believe it before you can achieve it. All right. Now, number 2 is your buy box blueprint. And this is what tells you exactly what you're looking for based on your goals, based on what you're looking to accomplish. So I've created a lot of video and training around the buy box blueprint, something I used to call the storage avatar. But essentially, it tells you what types of storage facilities you're going after, in which markets, what are the demographics of that market. Is it a value add opportunity? Are you looking for cash flow from day one, or are you looking for equity upside, right? Something that you can buy, increase the occupancy, increase the revenue, maybe turn around and sell it, get a big pop of income. There's a lot of different ways to skin the cat, right? But your buy box blueprint gives you some direction. And not only that, it gives you confidence so that when you speak to brokers, when you speak to wholesalers, they know exactly what you're looking for. And I've shared in previous videos and previous podcasts how I truly believe it was because of the relationship I built with the person that brought me my first deal, but it was also because I was crystal clear on my buy box blueprint, and I shared it with him, I shared it with others, and I came to be top of mind when he had any number of successful, proven storage owner operators at that time when, yeah, I've had some success in single family, but I had never bought a storage facility. I think it was because of the relationship I built with him, because I communicated with confidence, I had my buy box blueprint, and so he brought me exactly what I was looking for. When you know your buy box, the noise disappears. You stop chasing shiny objects. You start pursuing the right opportunities based on what works for you. And here's a little bit of a pro tip is in the course of your marketing, in something we call our deal flow machine, right? As you're generating leads and you're coming across opportunities, if it doesn't fit your buy box blueprint, it's an opportunity for you to wholesale that or pass it along to somebody and maybe partner with them on it. So many doors and opportunities open up, and I truly believe having a buy box blueprint is critical to this process, especially when you're getting started. Choosing your market. And it's a 2-market method. And this is also part of the deal discovery system inside of Storage Wins. But storage is different from other real estate asset classes in that you're not analyzing just one market. You're actually analyzing 2 markets. You're analyzing the people and you're analyzing the storage. Now, let's start with the first market. And that's people, because the people is what drives the demand. And storage is all about demand. I think one of the biggest risks that a first-time storage buyer can make is buying a storage facility in an overly saturated market, a market that just doesn't have enough demand for storage. And there's one thing I know to be true. You can be a very, very average to mediocre operator. And if I put you in a market that has demand for storage, in fact, let me take it a step further. You can be a pretty crappy to below average storage operator. And if I put you in a thriving market that has demand for storage, you're probably going to thrive. You could also, on the flip side, be the best storage operator in the country. And if I put you in an overly saturated market, you're going to struggle. It's going to be tough sledding for you. Okay, so people create demand through moving in and moving out, downsizing, job changes. You think about the D's, death, divorce, higher home prices, HOAs, and some of the restrictions that they might have around you being able to store your stuff. There's also bigger indicators that I look at, right? Is the population, is it flat or is it growing? Because I don't want to be in a market where the population is declining. Is the median household income at least $50,000 or greater? Because if it's a lot lower, then you're going to have more delinquencies, more bad debt. It's going to be more management intensive. It's just going to bring on more headaches. Ask me how I know. You want a strong employment base. And here's a key thing that I don't think gets enough energy and attention. The renter to owner ratio. Okay, and I believe the sweet spot is like 30 to 45% renters. Okay, because that gives you enough movement where there's a long-term necessity to support a healthy demand of storage. All right, so that's market number 1. It's the people. Again, the people is what drives the demand. Then you have market number 2, and that's the actual storage itself, the net rentable square footage. It's the supply available in the market. And in storage, we're typically looking at a 3 to 5 mile radius, okay? Because the customers of a storage unit are looking for convenience. In some cases, they're price sensitive, but they're looking for convenience. They're not driving an hour out to go store their stuff. So specifically what we're looking at is the competition, right? Where are competitors at when it comes to occupancy? Are they 80, 85, 90% full? Or are they struggling to fill their units? When you look at their website, do you see availability across their entire unit mix? Or does it say call for pricing, or you have to call to, or it says, hey, we don't have any available, or only one left? So you got to kind of get your finger on the pulse in terms of occupancy as it relates to the competitors. And this is something that's interesting that I didn't quite understand and know when I first got started, but rents that steadily rise without big drop-offs. And what I mean by that is, in a given market, if rents are raised by $5, $10, does that create an avalanche of people moving out by such a minor increase in rates? Because if it does, then the supply and demand might be off in that market, right? And it might not be the best market to be in. Or do you see operators that can raise rates, right? Raise rents, and they can maintain their occupancy. In other words, $5, $10, $15 bump in rates is not going to create that avalanche of people moving out. I also want to see no new large facilities being built within a 3 to 5 mile radius. That's also, I think, an area where a lot of first-time storage buyers miss the mark, is that they've analyzed the deal, they've analyzed the market, they've looked at the competition, but they didn't take the extra step to go to the building department and find out, hey, are there any open permits for new storage facilities coming online? Imagine if you spent all this time, energy, and effort to not just find the right deal, but to line up the financing, to secure the funding, to go through due diligence, to close it, and then 2, 3, 4, 5 months into you owning this facility, all of a sudden, boom, 30 or 40 or 50,000 square foot facility opens up 2 miles away from you right down the road. you better believe that is going to impact your ability to increase the occupancies and to raise rates. And remember, when we can increase occupancy, when we raise rates, we generate more revenue, we make more money, and the net operating income is what impacts the value of the facility. So here's what I want you to remember. People tell you if anyone needs the box, but storage tells you if everyone already has a box. In other words, it's all about the supply and demand. When both markets line up, the people in storage and demand is strong and supply is tight, that's where there's amazing opportunities. And again, you don't have to be a world-class operator, but if you can locate and pinpoint the right markets, then you can thrive as a storage investor. All right. Now, step 3 is all about building your deal flow machine. Okay. And this also sits inside of our deal discovery process inside of Storage Wins and in our model. If step 2 tells you where to hunt, step 3 shows you how to consistently find deals, generate leads and opportunities. And something that I talk about is the LMAO method. Okay. And LMAO is not what you think if you're hearing this for the first time, but L is about your list. And you constantly need a steady increasing list of storage mom and pop owner prospects. All right. So in fact, we not only do we teach people in our Storage Wins community how to generate a list, but we actually give them the list so that when they come in, they already can start marketing, having meaningful conversations. And when we're building the list, we're building the list based on our buy box blueprint, and we're looking for anything that is a non-REIT. So in other words, we're not looking for the real estate investment trust like Public Storage, Extra Space, Cube Smart, Life Storage, U-Haul, KO Storage. Those are not the types of facilities we're looking at. We're looking at the mom and pop, single story, typically speaking, drive up that either don't have a good online presence. Maybe they have no website or no Google My Business listing, or maybe it's a website that looks very, very outdated. They have little to no Google reviews, or they have customer service just challenges. Those are just some of the things we look for, and we add those facilities to our list. We actually have a tracker that we give to our clients where they don't need some fancy CRM with all these bells and whistles. They just need a simple tracker. And we actually have a color grading system across different metrics that we look at in terms of the market, the facility, the demographics, all these types of things. The M is for meaningful conversations. Okay, this is everything. Meaningful conversations with storage owners, with bankers, with brokers, with lenders, with wholesalers. Conversations lead to conversions. Conversions lead to contracts. Contracts lead to cash and cash flow. Okay, so you have to have meaningful conversations with storage owners. Talk to them. Send letters, send text messages, pick up the phone and call, smile and dial, build rapport. Find out how they got in the business, what they like about it, what they hate about it, if there's any pain points, if they were ever considered selling or receive an offer for their facility. And then that leads me to the next part before we tie it all together. And that's the A, which is analyze the deals. Another industry term or jargon is underwriting. Okay, it's like we just need a few basic data points to be able to quickly analyze a deal. We have something called the Storage Wins quick range or offer range calculator. And we also have a cap rate calculator, which in fact, I want to go ahead and give you for free. So there should be a link in the description where you can access this is basically a quick back of the napkin tool that with 1 or 2 data points, you just put that in and it gives you a range on what you can offer. Okay. So you need to be able to analyze deals, understand what the facility is currently worth before you can even get to the O, which is offers. Okay. Now, one quick point when it comes to analyzing is when I look at analyzing a deal, I first think about, does this opportunity deserve more than 2 to 3 minutes of my time? That's the first thing I'm just trying to figure out. Okay. If it does, then I'll go deep into the market, the competition, the rates, all that type of stuff. All right. But initially, we're going to make an offer based on the value, which is determined by the income that asset is producing today. We're not making an offer based on pro forma future value. Okay. Despite what some brokers might want to sell you on, it's the future value. No, we're going to make an offer based on today's value. Maybe we'll give them a little bit of lift on what it could do. So we're never buying on pro forma. Okay, we're offering on the current value. Now, maybe another way to say it is we will offer and buy based on the current value. But yes, of course, we're going to look at the future upside of the opportunity. That's what we're looking for, is what's the facility generating today? What could it generate when you come in, raise the rates, implement fee income, marketing, automation, things of that nature. And these are things that we go deep inside of the Storage Wins community and our coaching program. And then the O of LMAO, this is where new investors tend to freeze. They either don't know how to find deals, and if they do, they don't know how to analyze them. And even if they did, they don't trust their process and their numbers, partially because they don't have a support system, a community like Storage Wins, but they freeze. They get stuck in analysis paralysis, and as a result, they just don't get enough repetitions. What do I mean by that? They don't make offers. This is where people freeze. Whenever I talk to an aspiring storage investor, I always ask them, how many meaningful conversations have you had in the last 30 days? How many deals have you analyzed and looked at? How many offers have you made? Okay, because it's hard to get on base and much less score the winning run if you don't step up to the plate, if you don't swing the bat. So you got to make offers, right? And I want to encourage you, if you can get to the point where you're making 2 to 3 written offers per week, your pipeline is going to grow, things are going to move. And that can be a simple letter of intent. It could even be a verbal offer, okay, if you're intimidated by that process. So moving on here, step 4 out of our 7-step system is, we just touched on it, is analyzing deals simply, okay? And this is something that we cover in our deal filter system. And really, you only need to understand a few pieces of the equation here. If you can just get the revenue, right, the annual revenue or the average monthly revenue, you have enough to be able to do some quick back of the napkin, especially when you factor in 10 to 12% vacancy, or I should say 10 to 15%. I really like to underwrite more conservatively, so I tend to assume a 12 to 15% vacancy, typically a 35 to 40% operating expense ratio. And you can just do some simple quick back of the napkin analysis to come up with a projected net operating income. And then when you factor a cap rate to that number, it'll give you the projected value. And a cap rate is nothing more. It's an expression of value. It's nothing more than the return on the investment you would get if you were to buy that facility with cash, not counting any debt, okay, or debt service payments. So if you can get the revenue, if you can get the unit mix and the current market rents or the current rates for that facility, obviously you're gonna get their expenses. But oftentimes I find that a storage owner's expenses are a lot less than what your expenses are going to be. In some cases, because they are the manager, whereas in your case, you're not going to be the one managing that facility, so they're just not paying themselves. Also, your taxes are going to be based on your purchase price, so your taxes are likely going to be higher. Your insurance is going to be higher. And so you need to be able to stress test a deal when you analyze it. But always remember what I touched on is we're going to buy on pro forma, but we don't pay for pro forma. There's a huge difference between the two. We're going to buy on pro forma because we're not going to buy a facility we don't think has future value, but we're certainly not going to pay for that pro forma, meaning we're not going to pay for the future value that storage owner hasn't created themselves. And again, inside of Storage Wins, we provide something that makes this whole process just a whole lot easier. So if you want to learn about that, storagewins.com, and we can schedule a quick call so you can learn more about the plan we give you, the tools and the resources, and then the help, the support, and the guidance. So look, the Storage Wins cap rate and the quick offer range calculators, this simple tool is going to help you filter through more opportunities, estimate the value, determine your offer range, and just avoid overpaying, okay? Again, if you want access to that tool, find the link in the description. You can access it 100% free. It's my gift to you. So let's move on here to step 5, and that's our fearless funding process, okay? Every single storage deal I've done has been using other people's money. It's all been structured in a variety of different ways, from SBA financing to equity partners to private lenders to seller financing, which is one of my favorite. Most beginners, I think, believe that you can't buy storage because you don't have money. And I think that's just a false belief. You need money. It just doesn't have to be your money. You need a really, really good deal and the right structure. And I just touched on, I have Storage Wins coaching clients that have found and built relationships with small local community banks, credit unions, and they got 75% financing. I touched on SBA being, I got 85% financing with a small business administration. And that was on my very first storage deal. Seller financing, right? Storage owners are business owners. And so many of them understand what it means to take back a note, to essentially become the bank. So you have all these different types of creative structures or a hybrid. Okay. I think about our Florida facility, where I bought that on 90% seller financing and got phenomenal terms. That deal wasn't a deal based on the seller's asking price. It was a deal based on the terms and how it was structured. Okay. And that happened because I built relationship with the seller. I understood his needs, his wants, his greeds, his desires, his pain points, and I was able to craft a winning offer for him. Okay. So understand that relationship capital is literally the most valuable capital you could own. Okay. Every single storage deal I have ever done has come from relationships, or relationships was the backbone of that deal. So moving on here, step 6 is about making smart offers and performing due diligence. Okay. And this is something that inside of our winning deal formula and process, we cover at length. And this step separates buyers from people that are just browsing. Okay. You start with a simple letter of intent. That could be a 1 or 2 pager. Then it gets transferred onto a PSA, or a purchase sale agreement. I would recommend you consult with the pros, attorneys. Make sure you're dotting I's and crossing T's. And then once you execute the PSA, the purchase and sale agreement, you're going to move into the due diligence phase. And I would encourage you want to get at least 30 days, ideally 45 to 60, depending on the seller, if there's a broker involved, the market, the deal, how confident you feel. If this is your first time doing it, the more time you can get, the better. It just gives you a little bit more wiggle room. But I would say 30, 45 days is pretty common. If you can get 60, phenomenal. And don't ever trust a seller or a broker's numbers. Okay. You need to go through your process. And if you're going to trust, you always want to verify. Okay. And understand that I think where a lot of aspiring storage investors lose is not trusting their numbers. We talked about this, and I think time is one of the things that kills deals. Okay. This is why having the right support system and community to get you the support that you need, a second set of eyes to help build your confidence. This helps you not just in making the right offer, but in going through the due diligence process. Okay. So, understand one thing, that before we even get to due diligence, I should have mentioned this when we were talking about analyzing deals. I always look at 3 scenarios. I look at, hey, what is my likely scenario? And that's already conservative. I then look at what is my worst case scenario. In other words, if I can't raise rates, if rates stay, or maybe even rates drop a little bit, if instead of achieving 85 or 88% occupancy, what if I'm only at 75 or 80% occupancy? So I'll look at the worst case scenario. And then I'll look at the best case scenario. Hey, if everything that we think can happen happens, I will never, ever buy a deal based on a best case scenario. I'm always going to buy a deal when I'm comfortable with the worst case scenario, and I think I'm somewhere between the worst case and the likely scenario. Okay. Anyways, I just wanted to throw that in there. I didn't mean to take a step back, but I thought it was important and I should have mentioned that. So I want to move back to due diligence, because there's some different areas that you need to know when it comes to due diligence. You're going to do due diligence on the financials of the business. Remember, storage is a business with the benefits of real estate. So you need to verify all the financials, the profit and loss statement, the balance sheet, the trailing 12. Okay. The trailing 12 is the last 12 months worth of data. You're going to look at the rent roll. You're going to look at the management summary report. You're going to look at the move-in and move-out reports, because that can tell you a lot. Is it seasonal? Is the tenant base or the move-ins, are they coming steady? How long are they staying? So you're going to verify all that. Bank statements, tax returns, delinquencies, auctions, things of that nature. So you have the financial. Then you're going to do due diligence on the operations of the business. All right. Are they working with a particular software like Easy Storage Solutions or Storage or Cubby or something like that? The operations of the business, do they have automated gates? Are they doing any type of marketing? What are their systems and processes look like? Where are they lacking? Then you're going to look at the physical aspect of the facility, specifically the roofs. The roofs is a major line item. So you need to make sure if there's any issues or challenges with the roofs. Do you need to make any repairs? What is the shelf life of that roof? Because imagine if you bought a facility, 6, 7, 8 buildings, and then all of a sudden in 2-3 years, you got to replace the roofs and it's several $100,000s. You got to know that going in. You're going to check out the doors. Does it have good drainage? Is it pavement or is it gravel? Do they have good lighting and cameras? Does it have a fence with an automated gate? So you're going to check out the physical aspect of the facility, and then the legal. And you want to make sure you're working with a really reputable attorney. You're going to check zoning, survey, the title, of course, any environmental. You may want to do a phase 1 environmental report to make sure that what's underground can't create an issue for you in the future. You know, you don't want to be buying a facility that there used to be a gas station there and all of a sudden they built a facility on top of it, and environmentally the ground is not sound. Okay, so if the deal survives all these aspects of due diligence, then it's a keeper. And if it doesn't, we walk during your due diligence period, or you have a conversation with the owner to see if something can be done, provided it's a major thing you didn't know before. I don't like to leverage due diligence just to retrade. In other words, to renegotiate. I only have that conversation if it's something that wasn't disclosed or it's a big line item that there was no way I could have known until I got out there. So understand that. And then the last aspect of this is taking over and optimizing your facility. Okay, it's now that you close, what does success look like in the first 30, 60, 90 days of onboarding a facility? Because this can make or break you and your blueprint, right? You got to set up your systems. Your property management software should have been set up before you even closed. How are you collecting payments? Getting people on auto pay? Gate access, cameras. Are you using, I'm drawing a blank, Da Vinci lock system, right? What is your auction process like? Do you need to clean up any delinquencies? Are you implementing a late fee structure? Getting, like I mentioned, getting everybody on auto pay, communicating from day one that there's new ownership, new sheriff in town. Things are going to be run tight. You're going to add value to the facility with better lighting, better systems, great customer service, making sure there's a process for you to get 5-star Google reviews, revenue rate management, I should say, right? It's when does it make sense to start raising rents? I would encourage that you only do that on the unit types that you have a lot of vacancy on. There's a whole process to go through when it comes to revenue rate management. That's not going to be the topic of this particular episode, but building your online presence, making sure you have a Google business profile. Like I mentioned, reviews. Obviously, you want a website. Are you going to be doing anything on the SEO side of things with search engine optimization or pay-per-click marketing? You want a really, really solid boots on the ground team member that is going to be on site at least a couple times a week, that can handle the unit cleanouts, any turnover, lock checks, keeping the facility clean. I mean, we have an entire process around just that whole piece right there. And then remote operations. Do you have a call center, or are you it's a small facility and you or somebody in your team is going to handle the calls yourself? I would recommend a call center. Maybe you've decided to go third-party management because the facility is larger and the revenue the facility generates can justify the expense of a third-party manager, which is, by the way, the route that I've decided to go with my portfolio. When all this is dialed in, storage can become more simple, efficient. It can generate more cash flow, and it can build wealth for you long-term without it being a full-time job. Now, look, I will say, I believe one of the myths of storage is that it's completely passive. I don't agree with that. Storage is an operator's business, but it's not complicated. It can be simple, and with just an hour or two a week, you can manage a healthy, nice-sized portfolio when you have the right people, processes, systems in place. So look, that is the 7-step Storage Wins roadmap. Same exact system I use, same system our storage winners in other words, my clients and the people in our community use. And it's the same one that you can use to plug into to buy your next storage facility within the next 6, maybe 12 months. Okay. Now, if you want a customized game plan, a supportive community, and direct coaching to help you execute this roadmap, I want to encourage you, head over to storagewins.com and just book a free quick discovery call. And if you're not ready yet, totally cool. I hope you got value from this video. Make sure you hit subscribe, like the video, drop a comment if you can. If you haven't subscribed to the Storage Wins podcast, make sure you do that. Share this episode with others, okay? And if somebody hasn't told you recently or lately, you got this, my friend. You are a lot closer to your first facility than you think. The fact that you have gotten to this point of this training, it tells me you're serious about this. Now you just have to see it through. And if you don't have that support system, I really would encourage you to find that. So I look forward to connecting with you on the next one.